These are the 14 most powerful people in all of human history. The O5 Council. They call the shots at the SCP Foundation. They'd kill thousands to protect their anonymity, because their power lies in having no accountability to us, the people. Some say they're gods or immortals. Some say they're demons or AIs. Maybe there's a little truth to all that. But after risking it all to hack the Foundation's highest encryption database, I can give you the cold, hard facts. So listen close. We don't have much time. And be warned, you're in danger just for watching this. Good luck. You're going to need it. First, there's the files I scraped on O5-13, also known as the Persian, the Activist, the Meddler, and Tamlin. That's just a handful of the aliases he goes by. 13 is so mysterious that some people think he doesn't actually even exist. He's just the tiebreaker. Seeing as in a council of 12 members, you can technically get deadlocked on some important decision, right? This whole conspiracy theory says that O5-13 is a role that gets passed around all the other members. They get to take turns being a tiebreaker for all the big, important Foundation decisions. But you don't buy that, do you? Neither did I, so I searched deeper. I got curious about that one nickname, the Meddler, so I decided to take a deeper look. According to all those internal reports they like to sweep under the rug, 13 is nothing special, nothing anomalous, just an American male in his mid-30s of European descent. He's known for playing high-ranking members of the Foundation against each other. There's plenty of recorded complaints about him chewing out other council members and calling them incompetent behind their backs. And yet, there haven't been any recorded assassination attempts against him. And that really piqued my interest. Assassinations and the O5 Council go hand in hand, so I could tell this was just another cover story, and I went deeper. That's when I really peeled off the mask and found out who 13 really is. This might sound a little crazy, but the 13th member of the O5 Council is Death. That's right, the Grim Reaper, Anku. The most encrypted files show that sometime in the 1800s, the other members of the O5 Council conducted a ritual to ensnare Death himself, in order to make it so that the ravages of time would never reach them. He's a member of the Council, but also the Council's prisoner. And when I realized that this was the horrifying truth behind the nature of O5-13, it gave me an insight into just how insane the rest of all this was going to get. If you turn back now, they might just give you amnestics when they find you. Keep watching, and you might just hit the point of no return. Still here? Good. That means you've got guts. Unlike O5-12, but we'll get to that in a sec. These guys have more aliases than you have family members. The accountant, Adam, the train man, the contractor, the physician. Some say he's the normal one of the team, appointed to his position in an emergency after the previous O5-12 got assassinated by the ethics department. They mainly keep him busy with errands, but really he's just meat in the room. That just seemed a little too convenient to me, almost like a smokescreen. So I kept searching, rooting out the truth. One of the leading theories is that 12's real name is Omar Alloy, an African mathematical genius that'd make Einstein, Hawking, and Oppenheimer look like idiots. He got promoted to his position on the O5 Council because the Council was being pound foolish and penny wise, blowing their funds on self-indulgent pet projects to enrich themselves. Does it really surprise you? The O5 Council needed its own personal accountant, and nobody seemed like he'd fit the bill better than Omar. He's a large, dark-skinned man who's only ever seen wearing the finest suits. He's got a drinking problem, but everybody stays quiet about it. Because without him, this whole operation would be insolvent within a year. This all seemed to make sense. I was pouring through the files, and until they brought on the latest 12, it really did seem like the Foundation was having money troubles. He really was Omar Alloy, but here's the thing. Omar isn't a big guy in a suit. Not anymore. Ever since an accident, he's been reduced to a sentient brain in a jar, crunching numbers with an inbuilt computer terminal codenamed Cyrus. And if you were hoping that O5-11 would be the exception, you'd be dead wrong. 11's a real mean customer. He's often called by codenames like the Keeper, the Father of Lies, the Recluse, and the Turncloak. He's likely the one who cooked up every lie and misdirect I'm dissecting and deconstructing in this video. That's because he's the Chief Disinformation Officer of the O5 Council, and his dark genius is taking all the little truths about him, splitting them, and surrounding them with lies so nobody will ever notice. It's an ingenious deception, and one he's willing to do awful, awful things to protect. But I don't care if I die if it means getting to share the real truth. So here's what's true about O5-11. First, he was a member of several other groups of interest before defecting to the Foundation, including Marshall Carter and Dark and the Serpent's Hand. Chances are, giving up this information to the Foundation is how he was able to parlay himself into a position of power. Lord knows how they think they can trust him after all the groups he's already betrayed. It might have something to do with the fact he's an incredibly powerful thaumaturge, a sorcerer capable of bending minds to his will, including his fellow council members, it seems. But here is where it gets weird. Not only is all of this true, he's also the only member of the O5 Council that you might have already seen. That's because in addition to all this, he's also a sitting United States Senator, one of the more powerful and influential ones too. The Foundation wanted one of their own in Congress in order to manipulate the direction of the US political system to their own ends, and look at how that's working for all of us. But 11's a pussycat compared to O5-10, the first member of the O5 Council that I think might actually personally kill me for telling you all this. Truth is, you'd rather face off against 10 different mobile task force squads than O5-10. You definitely have a better chance of actually surviving against the squads. Some say that O5-10 is really Thomas Stonewall Jackson, a Confederate general who's living an unnaturally long life thanks to the influence of O5-13. But that's just as insane and wrong as it sounds. It's another classic ruse meant to throw investigators like me off the scent. And maybe if I was a schmuck like all the others, I'd actually fall for it. But no, I kept looking until I got closer and closer to the terrifying truth. Another one of the cover stories was that 10 was a 75-year-old Catholic man and a direct descendant of the Knights of the Military Order of Bora y Aragon. This gives him plenty of indirect experience with the anomalous thanks to the Order's extensive history of interactions with the strange and seemingly impossible. I'll admit that this one actually almost had me, but there was this itch deep in my brain that told me I was being fooled. I needed to go just a little further to find the real truth, so I did. That's when things got scary, because this was the first member of the O5 Council that I confirmed to be female, which narrowed the truth down to one possible action. 10 is the assassin. She was the Foundation's most effective and terrifying gun for hire. She's taken out everyone from the Zodiac Killer to US President John F. Kennedy, who'd gotten a little too close to the truth. She became so well versed in the art of murder that she started teaching assassins for the Foundation, and then teaching people to teach assassins for the Foundation. She'd become such an integral part of the Foundation's offensive capabilities that it was impossible to keep her out of the highest rungs of power. She likely assassinated the previous 10th member of the Council, as well as being behind a number of other internal assassinations and the direct training of the Red Right Hand Kill Squad. In other words, if a little laser sight appears on me while I'm telling you all this, it's probably from her rifle. And she might be scary, but things started to get even weirder when it came to O5-9, known by codenames like the Chameleon, the Oracle, the Secret Keeper, and the Lovers. The last one is particularly strange, because it suggests that the position of 9 is actually filled by two different people, a romantically involved duo who take turns being the actual member and the bodyguard of said member. Whether this is out of a sense of security or some weird fetish thing, well, that I can't tell you. But this whole thing ran a little too fanciful for me to begin with anyway. As the Chameleon, it's believed that 9 might just be a totally intangible being at heart, a free-floating soul, a loose consciousness capable of jacking into the bodies of others as a means of living forever, and eternally changing their whole appearance and vibe to avoid detection. See what I mean about the insane lengths they will go to stay hidden? I also found out that 9 is an absolute master of memes, using mimetic subliminal techniques to influence everyone around them to do their bidding. It's a level of personal power that immediately made them a sure thing for a high-ranking position in the O5 Council. The latest avatar of the Chameleon seems to be a woman from New Zealand, who's posing as the most normal member of the Council, when really she's anything but. For all I know, just revealing all this about her might cause her to switch bodies again and become someone entirely different. It's my worst nightmare that if they catch me, they might even turn my body into the next vessel for this monster. That my very flesh is forever forced to be a part of the thing I've dedicated my life to undermining. That's why I know I'm either going to go down fighting or stay under the radar, because even death is better than that. Though I guess what scares me is, if they did want to go that way, could 13 just bring me back to life so they could use me after all? I don't even want to think about it. What I do want to think about is the true nature of O5-8, whose disinformation takes some of the wildest turns I've ever seen. One of the cover stories that they've made for this member is the Imperative, some unknowable cosmic force that can make anyone do anything with a verbal command. According to the data I scraped, this is apparently how the Foundation pulled off some of its more unethical operations without any complaints from people. I don't buy it. The thing is, if this was true, why would there ever be any infighting or assassinations in the Council? The Imperative would keep them all in line. That's what got me diving deeper into the files. One of the top candidates for the true identity of O5-8 is Abigail Hadfield, the twin sister of another O5 member, and a former member of the General Assembly of Thaumaturgists and Theologists Against Queen Mab. This was a British-aligned anti-anomaly group of magic users created to oppose Mab, Queen of the Fey Realms, an extremely powerful entity and one of the Foundation's most persistent and dangerous enemies. As a result, she oversees Foundation research into anomalies involving thaumaturgy and reality warping, thanks to her experience. I've been able to confirm that Abigail Hadfield has been involved with the SCP Foundation, forming a confirmed link between them and the British government. But I don't think for a second that Hadfield is O5-8. No, that's because the true O5-8, Magnolia, has things to hide even beyond her role as a member of the Council. Magnolia is one of the more quiet and stoic members of the Council, because it rests on her to make some of the organization's most brutal and unpopular decisions. This makes her kind of the Council's sin eater. She's a European woman in her mid-50s, capable of changing her appearance at will and making herself deliberately unattractive as part of her penance for the terrible decisions she's been forced to make, including making the call to nuke multiple Foundation containment sites, killing thousands, in order to stop wider containment breaches. She wears an occult ring made out of human sinew, and some say that she welcomes assassination to relieve the constant waves of guilt. And yet, I feel like you and me are likely to get assassinated long before her. Speaking of assassinations, I immediately knew something was up when I was looking into O5-7. I got this feeling, that kind of acidic dread that curls up at the bottom of your gut like a caustic kundalini. Every intuitive part of my body was screaming, "This one is dangerous." And everything I've learned since has done nothing to prove that instinct wrong, including multiple indications that this nasty customer might be a high-ranking member of, if not the literal head, of the Chaos Insurgency, one of the most dangerous groups of interest the SCP Foundation has ever faced. The reports say that he seems to take a particular interest in any anomalous objects that get stolen from the Foundation during Chaos Insurgency raids. It seems, from my research, that he's a highly educated university professor and a major theorist in the field of anomalistic chaos magic. That makes him a major thought leader for the very philosophies that underpin the Chaos Insurgency itself. Using his incredible knowledge, he developed multiple Foundation training programs, particularly psychological prep courses for dealing with the anomalous in person. In a way, he was a key figure in making both the Foundation and the Chaos Insurgency the organizations they are today. But while all this is true, there's an even stranger secret beneath. 7 is not human and never has been. While its stock form appears to be an East Asian man with a vaguely androgynous appearance, it's actually an extraplanar being, a Lovecraftian entity of pure nightmares that just happens to walk among us. It wears jewelry made from the teeth of human beings, and it's unclear what it hopes to gain out of playing a role in the Foundation and the Chaos Insurgency. Maybe it just hopes to increase global chaos in a way that benefits its mysterious larger plans. We still don't know, because even the Foundation doesn't know that much either. And it says a lot about O5-6 when he can still feel larger than life when next to his extra-planar entity coworker, which, believe me, is no mean feat, my friend. One of the most cynical and paranoid readings of 6 is that he's a puppet of the Global Occult Coalition, the Foundation's more militant UN equivalent. He was believed to have been planted in the Council relatively early on in the Foundation's development, almost a kind of failsafe that would give the Foundation's most powerful group an inbuilt Achilles heel. But of course, that's just part of the smokescreen. They think they can trick me, don't they? Trick us. Of course, when they try to throw us off, it only encourages me to uncover more. I didn't believe the story that he was some decrepit 200-year-old wretch. His life stretched far beyond what SCP-006, the Fountain of Youth, could ever provide. But he still wasn't dying, not naturally. He was being kept alive by the supernatural intervention of 13. They say he mainly stays in a wheelchair, too physically weak to get things done for himself. But that couldn't be farther from the truth. The true nature of 6 is that he's a man in his 40s nicknamed the American, or the Cowboy, and he's got style to match. Long hair kept in a ponytail underneath a white Stetson, boss of the plains cowboy hat, wearing a white suit that would make Doug Dimmadome proud. He was once the Foundation's top field agent. That explains why he can swan through the halls of containment sites with that easy swagger, tapping his wolf's head cane as he walks, a bullwhip that's seen 100 cases still hanging from his belt. Because he's so confident in his own ability, he's the least secretive of all the O5 Council members, and the loudest. If you see him walking towards you, it'll probably be with his 2 expert bodyguards, known only as Thompson and Black. It seems like his role in the Council is heading Foundation security initiatives and rooting out any potential traitors in their midst. Chances are he knows that we've got this information about him already. I've tried to be careful, cover my tracks, but there's only so much you can do in the face of the most powerful organization on the planet. They see almost everything. They have eyes everywhere. And all those eyes connect back to the monstrous brain of the O5 Council. And even knowing everything you know now, you still might be surprised by what comes next. O5-5 is not nearly as audacious in presentation as the Cowboy, but that doesn't mean you should ever underestimate them, especially if the information I've hacked from the Foundation mainframe is to be believed. One of the smokescreens offered is that of the individual's codenamed Manifest Destiny, a violent force who believes wholeheartedly in the idea of man's inherent dominion over nature. He's a white American man in his mid-50s who has played an outsized role in slaughtering Native American anomalous communities. Thankfully, while this guy very much does exist, he's not actually on the O5 Council, one of the few saving graces in this whole leak. One thing that is true about 5 is that he oversees all the Foundation front businesses, making sure they run properly and have convincing covers. This is an extremely important job, because the Foundation needs funding. The fact that many of their front businesses are legitimately running businesses that makes use of their stolen anomalous technology in order to keep their cash flow solid. As a result, he works closely with O5-12. But of course, there's a twist in the tale, right? And that's even more literal here, because 5 is literally a cat. I'm not sure if he was a cat originally who gained human-level intelligence, or if he was a human first who was then somehow anomalously transformed into a cat, but managed to retain human-level intelligence. I didn't believe it at first, but the more you think about it, the more it makes sense. One of the Foundation's lead researchers, Dr. Kane Pathos Crow, is a dog, and one of the high-ranking members of the Serpent's Hand is also a cat. It gets more confusing and terrifying the more you think about it. But just in case a feline council member has misled you into thinking they're all sunshine and roses, allow me to direct your attention to O5-4. One of the nastiest of the whole bunch when you read between the lines. And no, I'm not exaggerating. All the misdirections in the data paint him as a much nicer guy than he is, such as saying he's an old member of the Imperial German Anomalous Matters Examination Agency and a veteran of the Fifth Occult War on behalf of the German Empire. It explained why he seems to have such an in-depth knowledge in the zone of Davite and Mechanite battle tactics. But while that last part might at least be true, the whole truth is a hell of a lot nastier than that. One of the most common codenames is the Gangster, and he's a high-rolling Chaos Insurgency affiliate, back when the Insurgency was still a Foundation Black Ops project connected to the Red Right Hand. But they don't just call him the Gangster because of that. The truth is, Four has been involved in a laundry list of organized crime and even terrorist groups. He's rubbed elbows with Al Capone and members of the Chicago Spirit, the anomalous crime organization that's dominated the American market for crimes of supernatural nature. He's been involved in thousands of killings, both for the Foundation, within the Foundation, and outside the Foundation, all for business and pleasure. He is a dangerous man, and is roundly distrusted even among the other members of the Council. But his extensive connections to the underbelly of the criminal world makes his information too useful to ever dispense with, even if they could kill the man himself. While O5-3 is thankfully much more benign than 4, he still has a dark past and some menacing connections, which shouldn't be surprising for anyone on the Council, should it? He's an elderly Russian man, likely a former member of the Tsar's Seers before the collapse of the Russian monarchy and the revolution. Since then, he's traveled the globe, eternally fascinated by religious and ideological cults, and gathering vast swaths of information about methods of controlling large numbers of people. He even has connections to L. Ron Hubbard, the creator of Scientology. Still, despite all this, many consider him the conscience of the Council, the voice of reason who encourages the more benevolent answer. But he's never the loudest voice in the room, generally bending to the group consensus even if it goes against his morals. That kind of moral and ethical flexibility will take you far in the corrupt edifice of the SCP Foundation. I can also say with complete and utter confidence that O5-2 is either a highly sophisticated artificial intelligence protocol or transgender Jesus. In the case of the former, he's a program created by top Maxwellist mechanites that have unparalleled skill in creating artificial consciousness equal in depth and greater in programming power than real human brains. He's the nerve center of the Foundation's Panopticon global surveillance system, the one that's likely hunting us down right now. In the case of the transgender Jesus theory being true, 2 is a Middle Eastern man designated female at birth, with wounds consistent with surviving the biblical crucifixion, and incredible anomalous powers that one would expect from the transgender Son of God. Under this premise, it's believed that 2 might be a holdover from an erased timeline. But honestly, even trying to reconcile the two possible options is making my brain hurt a little. Which brings us to O5-1, the most powerful member of the numerically designated O5 Council. Some of the cover stories on 1 are truly something else, including them being Eve, wife of Adam, the second woman ever created after Lilith. Another claims he's a mummified corpse with a biologically dead brain, kept alive through sheer willpower. But having cut deep below the layers of spin, I've discovered the truth we need to unmask this man. He was born with the second sight, a lifelong sensitivity to the anomalous. That's why he was drafted into a special contingent of Union soldiers in the American Civil War, with the specific purview of combating anomalous threats behind the enemy lines of the heathen South. It was his assignment to raid the Anderson factory, a huge infernal complex run by avowed Satanist Joseph Anderson. After one and his troops raided the place and killed Anderson, they took advantage of his occult tech to form an organization to face down the darkest aspects of the paranormal out there. This group, of course, became the SCP Foundation, corrupted by its own power. This is where most people, most cowards, would stop. But I'm not just interested in the table. I want to take down the one who sits above the table too. The mysterious figure known only as the Administrator, somehow even more classified than anything else involving the O5 Council. This is above top secret. The Foundation might wipe out an entire city on the off chance that just one of the people in that city had dirt on the Administrator. So when I tell you that I'm talking about positively nuclear secrets, I really mean it. So, who is the Administrator? Here's everything I know, and due to the anomalous nature of even information about the Administrator, sometimes even completely mutually exclusive information can simultaneously be true. One possible name for the administrator is F. Williams, and even the Foundation doesn't seem to know what that stands for. A note on his file reads, "We're not even sure what that first initial is short for. We found sources claiming it's Frederick, Francis, Fritz, Friedrich, or Franz. Sometimes the surname's something else or the names William Fritz, Frederick Williams, or Fritz Willis. But the letters FW keep showing up. There's something here." And that's where I agree. There is something here. We know the administrator has a lifespan impossible for any human, and that every world leader would fall over themselves to take his call. He was one of the key founding members of the Foundation, possibly dating back to the Stone Age, and is the only person with the authority to select and dismiss members of the O5 Council. His body is made out of a charcoal-esque material, multi-limbed, appearing patently inhuman. This isn't helped by his tendency to wear SCP-262, the coat of many arms, a long trench coat that manifests a bevy of alien limbs to allow the user to manipulate matter around them, hence one of his codenames, the Spider. Some claims he comes from a mysterious domain known only as the plane where eyes cannot follow. It is said that he speaks softly but punishes failure with extreme prejudice. His existence is even a part of Serpent's Hand scripture, reading, "An acquaintance of the Serpent prior to the Foundation's creation, and a frequent face in the Wanderer's library, perpetually youthful, optimistic, charismatic, and charming, creator of novel spellcraft, formed the Foundation alongside O5-1, having been inspired by the Serpent's rejection from heaven. He drinks love so deeply, it's a wonder he hasn't drowned. And maybe we will be the ones who can finally drown him, drown them all. With all this information, we're dangerous to them, you and me. We can use what we know as a weapon, use our brains to do what thousands of anomalies and hundreds of groups of interest couldn't. Working together, we could actually take down the..."
Wait, you can't be in here! Get out of here! No, you can't do this! I've got rights! I've got rights!
On behalf of the SCP Foundation, we apologize for the interruption, and we strongly recommend you forget everything you just heard. You'll live longer. Now check out Secret Groups That Runs the World, SCP O5 Council Explained, or The O5 Council Must Die, SCP-001 The Way It Ends, or Ouroboros Cycle, for more.